How's it going, everybody? We're going to discuss who the synagogue of Satan is and who those people truly are that are in Israel claiming to be Jews today that call themselves Ashkenaz Jews, ish, meaning not the real deal. Starting off with Revelations chapter 2, verse 9. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say that they are Jews and are not, but they are the synagogue of Satan. It's speaking of a group of people that are rich, claiming to be Jews, and they are not. The scripture says that curses were put on the real Jews, the tribes of Israel, and they would have been in poverty. They would have been very poor in these days today. Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Then we have Genesis chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, and First Chronicles chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, which explain that the children of Ashkenazi come from the children of Japheth, not Shem. The Israelites and Christ, I don't like calling Christ, King Yahusha, come from the children of Shem. The Ashkenazi people come from the children of Japheth. And we have proof right there in scripture. Then there is DNA tests being done today to prove who those people are more related to, who are they actually, where they actually come from. Those people come from the land that is known as Russia today and Ukraine, but once upon a time was called the Kingdom of Khazaria. Yes, those people were also called Khazars from the Kingdom of Khazaria. Those people we are speaking of today are the synagogue of Satan, the people in Israel claiming to be Jews. They are not Jews. The real Jews were sent into slavery, and from the southern tribes they were sent into slavery, and the northern tribe was exiled a few hundred years prior. And today they are in the land of their captivity and are also scattered to the four corners, but mainly in Babylon, America, and the surrounding islands, including South America. We have Genesis chapter 9, verses 27. Yahuwah shall enlarge the children of Japheth, and they shall dwell in the tents of Shem. That is a prophecy that Japheth will be enlarged. This is where most of your Caucasian, so-called white people, Europeans, come from, the children of Japheth. And it says there's a prophecy that they, children of Japheth, would dwell in the tents of Shem, which has been interpreted by many people that as a prophecy of what's going on today, the children of Japheth, Ashkenazi, dwelling in the tents of Shem in the land of Palestine, ancient Israel, pretending to be Jews and are not. And if you also go look at who the slave ship owners and slave drivers of the transatlantic slave trade, that were Ashkenazi merchants and Ashkenazis that were doing all this stuff. They were enslaving the real Jews while stealing their identity. Then there's a book called The 13th Tribe by Arthur Kessler. Y'all should check out. It's actually an Ashkenazi man that is telling us who his people are after he did a big study on his own people, trying to figure out where they come from after he was shown the proof that they were not real Israelites. Y'all should check that out. These people were brought into Israel in the early 1900s through a declaration called the Balfour Declaration, which was a agreement between the Rothschild dynasty, the families which are a part of the 13 Illuminati tribes, and as a ancient Nephilim bloodline. They literally say themselves that they descend from dragons. These people made a deal with the king of Britain to make a nation for the Rothschilds families, their people, the so-called Ashkenazi in Israel, which is a false state of Israel, because the prophecies of Israel being made a nation in a day has nothing to do with the time period or those people. It says that the real Israelites would not return into that land until after heaven and earth has been done. Heaven and earth has been done away with, till all the prophecies have been fulfilled. till Yahushua comes, the Father of heaven brings judgment. Like that, after all that, they will return to the promised land, and not until then. So right now it is being trodden down by the Gentiles. So y'all check out these videos, and we're gonna do a lot more explaining. I don't want y'all to get turned away from all my talk, and I want y'all to check these videos out of people giving testimony, proof, and evidence of who those people actually are, even DNA testing that has been done. Please check out these videos, and I will see you at the end of them. Enjoy.
Many of the Jews that today live in the reconstituted state of Israel come from Eastern Europe, are not descendants of the Judeans or the lost tribes of Israel, but rather descendants of the Khazars. Who are they? They were a nation most people do not even know of. He writes, the so-called self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe in modern history cannot legitimately point to a single ancient ancestor who ever set even a foot on the soil of Palestine in the era of Bible history. Research also revealed that the so-called or self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe were never Semites, are not Semites now, nor can they ever be regarded as Semites at any future time by any stretch of the imagination.
State of Israel to obtain this. And if you do obtain it, it's illegal to show it and or talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that, right? Now, you might ask yourself, why is it illegal to obtain this in the state of Israel? Because it proves through your DNA that Jews around the world have no ancestral ties to the land of Israel. But according to Israeli law, the fact that I have Jewish blood gives me more right to somebody's home and land in the land of Palestine than somebody that has been there for hundreds of years. Doesn't make sense.
But I need to put this out there and put this out there right now. The white Jews that you and I have honored and been taught all these years are God's chosen people is an absolute lie. They are imposters. They are fake. They are descendants of the Romans that rose up into power in between the New Testament and the Old Testament that we as Christians believe was the Dark Ages, but God was speaking. But as they rose to power, they did exactly what Deuteronomy chapter 28 said would be done out of the very mouth of our God, when he said that my people will be taken from a land and stripped of their name, their identity, their culture, and everything about them, and brought to a land where they will be enslaved, and where they will be beaten, where they will fear the terror of their master day and night. And one of those verses in Deuteronomy chapter 28 says that even that nation will hover over them like that of an eagle. And so with that basis of that understanding, I am telling to you, my white brothers and sisters, that we have been duped all these years. We have been duped to believe that our black family members are low-life monsters created to be slaves and nothing more than that. But the truth is the absolute opposite. They are the chosen of God. They are the chosen of Yah. And God, even the God that we say we call upon in Christianity, is coming back to redeem his people. And it makes it very clear that the nation that held his people in slavery are going to fall, much like Pharaoh fell when he refused to let God's chosen people go. And I know you're going to doubt me and say, prove it. But my question is this: how much proof do you and I have on the things that you and I believe that we've been taught? I've never done research. So read The International Jew, which was written by Henry Ford, who built so-called Your and My car. That back in the 1920s and 30s, he spent millions of dollars, 2 or 3, to do research and found out that the Jews that we serve today are fake Jews, and the relationship between our government and those Jews is based off of wealth, not that they're God's chosen people. That is the facade for us to tie with the enemy, while the real chosen people that we have enslaved are stripped of their identity in who they are.
I would bet you, if you did a DNA test for all the Palestinians and a DNA test for all the Israelis, the Palestinians have more actual genetic ties to that landmass than the Israelis, who are mostly Eastern European. This is every prime minister of Israel. First one, David Gurion, real name David Grun, born in Poland. Mashi Sheret, real name Mashi Shurtok, born in Ukraine. Levi Eshkol, real name Levi Shkolanik, born in Ukraine. And Yigal Alan, real name Yigal Paikovich, born in the Ottoman Empire. Next one, Golda Meir, real name Golda Mabovich, born in Ukraine. Almost every single one of them has a fake name, and nearly every single one of them is actually from Eastern Europe.
The Ashkenazi, which are the people who are in Israel, they are the people who control BlackRock, Vanguard, Hollywood, the corn industry, etc., etc. It continues to go deeper. They also control every single bank in existence, every single insurance company in existence, all of it. They are not the true Judean people, and they claim anti-Semitism all the time, but they are not Semites. A Semite is someone who is of the Middle East, like a Palestinian, for example, or the Muslims. These Ashkenazi, which is the sect of Judeans that they are, claim anti-Semitism towards them all the time, claim to be the chosen people of God, when all of that is a direct lie. So I implore you to do a little bit of research into the truth of the Ashkenazi people and understand that these Ashkenazi are the same people who had Christ killed for messing with their money. Literally, that is why Christ was killed. They had no issue with him going around and existing before. Well, they did, but they didn't do anything about it because he was peaceful. Then one day he goes into a temple and flips tables and calls them a den of thieves and says that they had turned his father's temple into a den of thieves. So, food for thought, guys.
So the white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except it's a loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know, it's from the Renaissance. Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
We were talking about the book, The Zionist Movement. We was talking about the history of the original Jews, and John here has some history that most people don't know. And what was that history you said? Tell me what you just said again. I gotta get on camera.
There's only one true ethnic Jew, the Mizrahi Jew, because they are Africans, and if you read the original Bible written in Phoenician Hebrew, they're not. Jewish people are not Europeans. The modern Jews in Israel are Russians or Khazars to be precise, from Russia.
And where'd you learn that history?
I learned it from my grandfather that because he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
Okay.
And he was a Zionist.
See, I just want to get that on record because a lot of people don't know this, and this information should always be shared. Thank you, John.
All right.
Why are DNA tests illegal in Israel?
There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. It's fine. I love all religions. But you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years. Again,
most Christian Zionists in America have no idea that the people living in Israel are not the area of Palestine, Israel, whatever you want to call it. They were not born there. They immigrated from Europe.
Ashkenazi Jews.
They were Ashkenazi Jews who came in from Europe and with the rifle took the land. God didn't give it to them. They took it at the point of a rifle shooting Arabs, and they killed Muslims and Christians. They slaughtered them, massacres, women, children, Horrible massacres. That is the history of Israel, 1948. And I dare any Christian Zionist to prove me wrong, because I can show you the historical records of the massacres that took place in 48. It was horrible, absolutely horrible, the people who were killed. And because of that, the Arabs developed a fury and anger that European Ashkenazis just flooded in to Palestine and violently pushed them off their land. So any of us can understand that.
Your family and friends will call you a liar for knowing this truth. So I have forged an arsenal of the 10 most irrefutable proofs the Israelites are black. Comment facts to get your copy now, or click the link in my bio.
Who are the true Jews? You see, the ancient Egyptians were a Kemetic people. They were black. In 1965, the former president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, said he couldn't respect the present Jews in Israel because they left Israel black and they came back white, because they were Caucasians when they returned, a Turkic Mongol Asians from the Caucasus Mountains, the Russian steppes. Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. I am black.
So what about you? What kind of Jew are you? Well, my family is Ashkenazi. Where do Ashkenazi come from? Generally, this term is used to refer to Jews of Eastern Europe, particularly places like Germany, as well as Poland, Russia, the Pale of Settlement, Ukraine, Moldova. So you know the biblical patriarch Noah, right? He had 3 sons. He had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth had a son named Gomer, and Gomer had a son named Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is the biblical Hebrew for the region that we now call Germany. This is where we get the name Ashkenazi to refer to the Jews that settled in Germany as well as the other parts of Eastern Europe. What is it about being Ashkenazi that makes it so unique in the Jewish world? Well, a lot of our traditions are very Germanized, including our language. We took German and we seasoned it with Hebrew, as well as Polish and Russian. So how did the Jews get all the way to Germany in the first place? Well, you see, we don't totally know. After Roman captivity ended, the European Dark Ages started. So the earliest known history of Jews in Germany at this moment only dates back to the 11th century. But between those 600 years, no one really wanted to write anything about how we got there. You see, it's not difficult to imagine Jews getting to Germany. They were already in Spain. Can you tell me more about this later? I actually have a thing.
Even if some Ashkenazi Jews have some distant ancestral ties to the Middle East, that does not make them indigenous to Palestine. Along with being native Hawaiian, I am also Korean, Filipino, Irish, Scottish, Welsh. I'm also distantly Icelandic. That does not mean I am indigenous to those areas, and that does not mean I have the right to show up and displace people already living there, let alone forcibly starve them and cut them off from aid and kill them. No one has the right to do that to anyone. Indigeneity is not about having a bloodline that you can trace back thousands of years. It is about living relationship to the land, being rooted there for generations, and maintaining that connection in spite of displacement, occupation, and attempted erasure. Even if you believe your ancestors once lived somewhere, that does not justify harming innocent people, using starvation as a weapon, targeting UN workers, health workers, journalists, targeting children, committing SA on hostages, forcing civilians to drive down different roads, carry different passports, bulldoze villages, communities, condoning and encouraging attacks on civilians, bombing schools, hospitals, residential areas. Because then you have no right to claim indigeneity when what you are doing is violent colonization, carried out by a state that's using history as a weapon against people who have done nothing wrong.
The Israel in the Bible is not the same Israel as today. And I know what you're thinking, and you're already jumping into conclusions, but hear me out. People are over here fighting and debating over a misunderstanding of what Israel actually means. They think that the modern Israel is the same as the Israel God promised in the Bible. It's not. In the Bible, Israel means 2 things. First, Israel was a person. In Genesis 32, Jacob wrestled with God, literally fought him all night long. And after that, God changed his name to Israel, which means he struggles with God. Second, Israel became a nation. Jacob's 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel, God's chosen people. But hear this out, they were not chosen because of their land. They were chosen because of God's promise. The nation of Israel existed under kings like David and Solomon. But guess what? They lost their land. They were exiled because they turned away from God. Fast forward today, Israel was founded in 1948 as a political state. But that's not the same as biblical Israel. It's not ruled by biblical law. Not everyone there is a descendant of the 12 tribes. And the land does not define God's people. Faith does. So when people think that defending modern day Israel is the same as defending God's chosen people, no, you're missing the whole point of Scripture. God's Israel was never about land, but about a relationship with Him.